Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain For You. Today's video is going to be how to calm down your nervous system. So, I'll get to that in a second. Breathe in the peace. Exhale the noise and the static. Breathe in the certainty. Exhale the doubt. Breathe in the calm. Exhale the freak out. Alright, so that last breath in, breath out was kind of a clue. How do we calm down the nervous system? By actually doing everything we can in our power to stop freaking out and thinking and responding in a calm manner. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form dismissing the severity of your symptoms and how distressing and disturbing they are. Not at all. How do I know? Because I spent 13 years with much of it in significant pain, laying on the floor, looking up at the ceiling, laying in bed. I kept my life going. I wasn't disabled completely, but I suffered for a lot of it, and I suffered a lot. So, how do we calm down the nervous system? Well, we don't do it by catastrophic thinking. We don't do it by getting on that merry-go-round of fear and having it spin faster and faster and faster. We don't do it by thinking the worst-case scenario about, oh my God, if I'm this bad now, what's my future going to look like? Your nervous system's going to stay jacked up. Because keep in mind, the nervous system, the stress response system, is a survival mechanism. And it responds to danger in a very specific way. Stress, your eyes dilate, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, your breathing increases. This fills your body with oxygenated blood. But your stress hormones also pump out, the adrenaline, the cortisol. And everything amplifies. And so if you want to calm down the nervous system, staying in the stress response, which is a survival mechanism caused by danger, is certainly not the way to go. So you can't imagine the number of emails, messages, comments I get from people who are frantic. And I get it. I spent a lot of my years there. Really, really frantic. Totally freaked out. And they're saying, I don't understand this. I journal, but the pain hasn't gone away yet. But yet they're freaking out. And they're saying, but you don't understand. Well, yes, I do understand. I've been paying attention to this stuff for 24 years. My own pain, 11 years without it, interactions with tens of thousands of people over those years. I see what it's like. I understand what it's like. I talk to people going through this stuff. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. Inevitably, 2 or 3 of the people I meet with each week are starting out the call in tears because they're just at their wits' end. Trust me, I get it. And my goal during these calls and my goal during these videos and my goal during the new coaching program I'm going to put together in the online course is to share with you how we settle the system down. If the body is in the stress response, we've got to get out of the stress response. And so we can use our body to do that with breathing and softening and relaxing muscles. But we can also use our brain to do that. We can make a better decision. We can decide to accept that TMS is the cause of the pain. And somebody was pointing out to me in a message, they said, Dan, with all due respect, you only had one problem, back pain. I've got multiple problems all over my body. Almost to say that my back pain didn't count. And I sat on that message for a little bit, and then I replied. I said, with all due respect, I wouldn't wish my back pain on anybody. And oh, by the way, I also had sciatica down one or the other leg or both. So is that one problem, 2 problems or 3 problems. It doesn't matter. My pain was my pain. Your pain may be different. But what I pointed out in my response was she doesn't have multiple problems. She's got one. If she's done the assessments and it indicates it's created by the brain and it's TMS, it doesn't matter if she's got 6 symptoms going throughout her body, 16, or just one. Yes, I know it can be more overwhelming and more scary, but it's still just one problem, and the solution is the same whether you've got 1, 6, 16, or 60 different symptoms. We want to calm down the brain, because the brain controls this nervous system, and the nervous system, once it settles down and the body comes down, the brain controlling that calms it down, everything starts to fade away. These symptoms will start dropping off. And so it is really important to remember, I don't think the job is digging up some long lost emotion from when we were 6 years old. Yes, maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that trauma is still lingering. But I think the goal is to teach our brain, so it can teach the nervous system, that we're not being chased by a tiger 24 hours a day, and that we are truly safe in the present, and get out of the stress response as much as possible. So how do we actually do that? It starts by accurate knowledge. You look at a Dr. Sarno book. Man, he had 190 pages of what TMS is. Few success stories, few examples. But 99% of what he did was knowledge therapy. That's why I spent a lot of time on the knowledge as to what's going on. Assessment and acceptance. You got to make a decision. If you're on the fence, your brain's not going to let go of this fear of body movements and positions and all that kind of stuff. Right? So, knowledge, assessment, acceptance. That's where we move on to what I talk about as far as belief goes. Not belief, the doing part. And I'm not going to give you homework, but I will tell you, there's a few things that we want to pay attention to and make subtle shifts so that the brain gets the message that we're safe and can start to settle the system down. So become aware of these 3 states of being: your emotional state, your physical state, and your mental state. Because any one of those 3 can launch you or send the wrong message. You can launch you into the stress response or keep the stress response persistent or send a message of danger to the brain. So be aware of your emotional state and feel the emotions, so you can teach your brain that emotions are safe, they're okay. I just felt some really intense anger, and the world didn't blow up. The ceiling didn't collapse on me, right? So be aware of your emotional state. Feel it. Become aware of your physical state. I've talked about that a few times. You gotta breathe. If you want to get an idea as to what I mean by relaxed breathing, I don't mean structured breathing, box breathing, breathe in for 7, out for 8. I don't mean Wim Hof breathing, which is very exaggerated. What I mean is comfortable. Imagine the breathing that you would be doing if you were sitting in a beach chair, on a beach, under an umbrella, listening to the waves, not a care in the world, not a thought about your breathing, but just knowing that you were breathing in that fresh air comfortably. You weren't tight and shallow and restrained. You just relaxed. Another good example of this type of relaxed breathing that I'm talking about is the breathing right as you're drifting off to sleep. Right? It's that moment when your brain gets out of the way, your body completely relaxes, and you go to sleep. So be aware of your emotional state, feel it. Be aware of your physical state. Relax your breathing. Soften your body. Let the tension out. Let your shoulders drop. Right? Be aware of your mental state. because the mental state is where all the catastrophic, anxious, fearful thinking happens. It's where the freak out really happens. And so, if you want to calm down your nervous system, staying in freak out, staying in catastrophic thinking, staying in anxious thoughts is not going to help you. It's not going to turn down the system. All that is doing is that anxious, fearful merry-go-round of scary, dangerous, oh my God, my life is horrible, I'll never get better thinking. That's like turning up the flame on the stovetop and wondering why the pot won't simmer down. So these are different ways that we can choose to teach our brain that we're okay. When the brain gets the message, it's the control center for the entire body and the nervous system. And when the brain feels safe, the pain can turn off. Indifference is a really good way of turning off these danger alarms, right? Really useful way, right? It's really important because when you are indifferent, you're not screaming, oh my God. You're saying, okay, so I heard again today, no big deal. Don't care. And I know you're going to say, but I do care. It hurts too bad. I know it's challenging, but it's worth it. You know, one example that I just had from a coaching client on Tuesday was somebody said they had a big move coming up. Their husband was working 6 nights. And if you guys are listening, love you too. Their husband was working 6 nights a week, and they were planning to move. And my client was having all sorts of pains, pelvic pains. And she finally clicked on this concept of indifference because she had a lot of packing to do and getting ready for the move and everything else. So she said 2 weeks ago, she had a 4-day period where she basically said, don't care, don't have time for the pain, excuse my language, but fuck it, I got stuff to do. And she stopped making her pain the priority, and she got busy with the task of packing and boxing up and getting ready for the move. And she said her pain left her alone for those 4 days. So indifference worked for her the first time it clicked, and she was able to actually implement it. And it really came from a decision that she had to make. So indifference is really useful. And if you can't be indifferent, you hear me say it all the time, at least don't freak out. Because freak out's just going to turn on the stress response, the fight or flight, the survival mechanism. And do you think your brain and your nervous system is going to calm down if you're always in freak out? And again, you guys can't imagine the types of emails that I get where every third word is capital letters, like, Dan, I am screaming in pain, and it is agony in capital letters, and I'm thinking to myself, they're nowhere near ready to have their nervous system calm down. Everything about how they are responding to TMS says, I am in danger. And I get it, I understand it, but it's counterproductive. And so I don't mean to be in your face about this. I'm really just trying to implore you to say it's your job to teach your own brain to calm down. How do we do that? By actually being calm. We don't do it by freaking out and saying, brain, I don't understand why you won't turn off the pain and settle down the nervous system. That's not the answer. The answer is to, and I'm not telling you to become Zen and like a meditation guru or anything like that, but the closer you can get to that, the better you're going to be. Smile. It's hard to smile and be totally stressed out, unless it's a nervous type of smile. Look, the goal here is to settle down the nervous system. In order to do that, we got to teach the brain to settle down. That involves paying attention to your mental state. And what do we do about that? We don't take those thoughts seriously. We let them pass. If you want to linger or ruminate on some thoughts, linger on the knowledge stuff, which is that, every time you start going into that freak out spiral, remind yourself of what's going on. And I use the phrase just TMS, and I've had people scream at me all caps, "What do you mean just TMS? Ah!" Again, the message of Dr. Sarno, TMS 101. You're not broken. What are you freaking out about? I know the pain is awful. I know the symptoms are awful. I know it is scary. But that's like freaking out after you find out that the bear in the woods is a cardboard cutout held up by some sticks. Right? When you truly understand what TMS means, it means it's a false alarm. There's no fire. So look, I'm doing my best here to give you some tools to teach your own brain to settle down. Sorry, I didn't want to sneeze. So, what do you guys think? Are these concepts helpful in teaching your brain and thereby your nervous system to calm down? Proactively getting out of the stress response into the rest and recover, the parasympathetic, is absolutely going to help you out. And so, put some of this stuff into action. If you find yourself freaking out, grab yourself by the shirt collar. Bring yourself back out to the sunlight. Remind yourself what TMS is, the fact that you've done the assessments, that it does apply to you, and that your primary goal is to settle down. And if it's a helpful analogy, think of how you would soothe or calm down a child if they were scared. Would you scream at them? Would you be freaking out with them? Or would you calm down? Change your tone of voice. A nice soothing, calm voice. Kind of like I portray in these videos here. Do you think yelling at and screaming and freaking out with the kid will calm them down? No, it's going to scare the crap out of them. So, with all due respect, stop scaring the crap out of yourself. Super important. So, with that, I'm going to leave you be for tonight, or for today. I hope this message found you well. Yeah, I guess that's it. Love you guys and gals, and I'll see you tomorrow.